Simon Says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
Hello everyone and welcome back to this course on Word 2019 Advanced. We've made it all the way down to section 8. And in this section, I'm going to talk to you about different types of links or hyperlinks that you can add into your document. Now, links enable you to link to external documents, web pages, email addresses, and even different sections of a document. And they're extremely useful if you need to reference maybe something on the web, if you want to provide a quick way for someone to jump to another Word document or Excel spreadsheet, or even if you just want to help people navigate efficiently around your document. So in this module, I'm going to show you an example of each type of link that you can add into your documents. So on the screen here, I have open the employment contract. And this is a reasonably short document. It's only 5 pages long, but we're going to add in some links into this document to make it a little bit more informative and easy to navigate. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can add links into documents. You can right-click your mouse and you'll see that in the right-click menu, you have an option for link. Alternatively, if you jump up to the Insert ribbon, right in the middle there, we have a group called Links, and one of the options that we have is Link. So I'm going to say Insert Link. So now we get the Insert Hyperlink dialog box. And on the left-hand side, we have 3 options that we can link to: existing file or web page, place in this document, or email address. And we're going to go through each one of these. So first, let's look at existing file or web page. So you would use this option if you wanted to create a hyperlink to maybe another document. So for example, the document we're in currently is the employment contract. So maybe I want to link to a Word document that contains the full description of this particular job. I would do that from this option. Now, alternatively, I could link to a web page from this option as well. And that's the first thing that we're going to tackle. Now, you'll see at the top here, it says text to display. So what do you want to display in the document? So when you add the link to your document, what do you want it to say? Now, currently, this field for me is blank. So I could come in here and type in the text that I want to display. Or alternatively, if I click cancel on here, maybe I want to link to the government website that contains all the information related to the Employment Rights Act of 1996. So what I could do is select the text, right-click, and jump into link. And this time you'll see that the text to display is now the same as the text that I got highlighted. So that's a more efficient way of doing things. What I can then do is just jump straight to the address field at the bottom and type in the web address. Alternatively, I have a browse the web option just here. So this will open up an internet window, and you can see mine is opened in Internet Explorer. I can then choose to go to the Employment Rights Act 1996. I can click on this link, which takes me to the correct government web page. And if I just close this down, you'll see that it automatically populates that address in the address field. I can click on OK. And there we go. I now have a hyperlink created, and you'll see as I hover over it, I get that little screen tip that says Control-click to follow the link. Now, when you insert a link, it's going to show in this blue color. And blue denotes that the link hasn't been clicked yet. You'll see in a moment when we actually click on the link color will change. Now, unfortunately, you can't change the color of the clicked link, but you can change the color of the link prior to it being clicked. So if I wanted this to be red as opposed to blue, I can highlight the link, right-click my mouse, and I have a font option. And of course, from here, I can change the actual font, the font style, the size, the color, all of our usual font formatting options. So I'm going to change this to red, click on OK, and it's now appearing in red. When I hover over the link, I get a little screen tip that tells me hold down Control and click to follow this link. So if I hold down Control, you'll see that my cursor changes to a hand icon. Click on the link, and it's going to open up a new window that jumps me straight to that specific web page. And what you'll see now is that now that I've clicked on that link, the link has changed to a purple colour. Now, if I wanted to edit this link in any way, if I right-click my mouse, I now have some additional options: edit hyperlink, open, copy, and remove. So if I say edit hyperlink, it's going to pop open that box again, and I can replace the web address or change the text to display. Now, something else that's worth doing is adding in a screen tip. Now, you'll see over on the right-hand side, we have a button for screen tip, and we've talked about screen tips throughout this course. Every time we hover over an icon on our ribbon, we get a screen tip. And you can add your own screen tips to links so that people know exactly what's going to happen when they click on that link. So I'm going to click on the screen tip button, and I'm going to add in some screen tip text. Click the link to jump to the Employment Rights Act 1996 on the government website. Click on OK, click on OK again, and now when I hover over, I get that information just above in that screen tip. So it's always recommended that you do add these in for informational purposes. Now, another even quicker way that you can add in a link to a web page is simply by typing the web address. So if you look at the line underneath, it says, "You, Marcus Bird, began working for Kramer Martin Chase LLP." And maybe I just want to add the web address of the company website after the company name. So if I type in www.kmcllp.com, all I need to do is press the spacebar or the enter key, and it's automatically going to make that a hyperlink. And once again, I could go in, I could change the font color so that it matches the other hyperlinks that I have in my document. Now, another thing I could do is link to an external document. So if I move a bit further down, my employment contract, I have a section here for brief description of the job. And it says underneath, your responsibilities are set out in the job description attached to this statement. So if I have the full job description saved off in another Word document, I can add that in as a link as well. So let's right click and click on link. And we're going to stay on the same option, existing file or web page. But this time we're going to browse to find the file that we want to link to. So I'm going to click on the browse for file icon. I can see my document sitting just here, so I can select it, click on OK. I'm going to add a screen tip that just says full job description. Click on OK again and OK. And there we go. Now that link is kind of a little bit ugly, so you might want to tidy this up by editing it. So if I right click on the link and go to edit hyperlink, instead of it displaying the full path of where I've picked that document up from, I'm just going to change the text to display to job description. And click on OK. And that now looks a lot neater. And if I hold down Control, it's going to open up that document. Now, another cool way that you can link in documents is that you can link to different sections of the same document. So let's scroll down a little bit. And I'm going to go to this holiday entitlement section. And I'm going to add a piece of text underneath that says, see other paid leave. Now I have a section further down this document called other paid leave. So what I want to do is create a link that's going to jump me down to that specific section. So I'm going to select my text, right click and select link. And this time I want to choose the link to place in this document option. And what this will do is it will pull in all of the headings within your document. So again, this is really important that you have your document styled correctly with heading styles. So all I need to do now is scroll through my list of headings and find the heading that I want to link to. And I can see that it's this one just here, other paid leave. I'm going to add a screen tip. Click to jump to other paid leave benefits. Click on OK, OK again, and now I have a link. I'm going to highlight it, I'm going to right click and change the font color so that everything is consistent. And now if I hold down my Control key and click on the link, it's going to jump me to that specific section of the document. And the final type of link I'm going to show you in this module is how to link to an email address. So let's scroll all the way down to the bottom of this document. And you can see that under disciplinary rules and procedures, it says if you're unhappy with any disciplinary decision taken in relation to you, you can appeal by writing to Jane Doe. Now it might be that I want the name Jane Doe to link to an email address. So I'm going to right click and select link. And this time in the link to area, I'm going to say email address. And what I can do here is type in the email address for Jane Doe. And I can type in a default subject if I want to. So I'm going to type in inquiry. I'm going to add a screen tip that says click to email Jane Doe. Click on OK. Click on OK again. And now I have a link. So when you click on the link, it opens your default mail app. And you can see exactly what it's done. It's populated the email address and also the subject. Now, a couple of final points when it comes to adding in links. When you're linking to an external web page, sometimes it's nice to be able to control how that web page opens. So for example, this first link here that says Employment Rights Act 1996, I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit that hyperlink. And what I can actually do here is I can choose my target frame. So if I want that to open in a brand new window, I can click the drop down here and I can say New Window. And I'm going to set that as the default for all of my hyperlinks. Click on OK, click on OK again. And now when I click on my links, they're going to open in a brand new window. And of course, the final couple of options that you have, if you right click on any of your links, you can choose to open them from here. You can copy a hyperlink or you can remove a hyperlink altogether, which will just take it back to plain text. Now there is one option that we haven't explored in this module, and that is how to link to bookmarks. But we have an entire section on bookmarks, so I'm going to cover that then. But for now, that's it for this module. I will see you in the next one. Hello everyone and welcome to this video tutorial on using tables in Microsoft Word. Now, tables play a big role when it comes to laying out a document. They allow you to present your data in columns and rows and make information look more organized and easier to read. And tables have their own contextual ribbon with many different options available to reorganize, modify, and format the table to match the overall look and feel of any document. So in this tutorial, we're going to go through the process of inserting a table into our document, and then I'm going to show you some tips and tricks when it comes to formatting that table. So let's first deal with inserting a table into a blank document. Now, there are a few different ways that you can do this. So I'm going to show you a couple of them. The first way is to jump up to the Insert ribbon, and you'll see that you have a group here called Tables, and there's only one option in there, that is the Table option. And when you click on that drop down, you essentially get this little grid. So this allows you to select how many rows and how many columns you want in your table. And you can see as I hover my mouse over this grid, it's building the table live in my document. So if I know, for example, that I want a table that is 3 columns by 4 rows, I just need to select that many squares in the little grid. And I click, and there is my table. Now, the other option that you have when it comes to inserting tables, I'm just going to quickly delete this table out, is again to jump up to that Insert tab, click the table drop down, and instead of using the grid, there is an Insert Table option. And this is where you can go in and you can specify the number of columns and the number of rows that you want in your table. So I'm going to say that we're going to have 4 columns and we're going to have, let's say, 10 rows. And I then get a choice of the auto fit behavior. So for example, here, fixed column width means that each column in the table will be the same width determined by Word. And I have this set to automatic, so it's going to do the best fit. Auto fit to contents means that each column will fit to the contents contained within the table. And finally, auto fit to window means that the columns will expand to be flush with the left and right margins. Now I find that most of the time this fixed column width is absolutely fine for what I need to do, because if I do need to make any adjustments or changes to the width of the columns, I can do that after I've inserted the table. So I'm going to click on OK, and there we have my table. Now another option that you have when it comes to inserting tables, and I'm just going to put this one underneath the first table, is we can draw our own table. And sometimes this is appropriate because it does give you a lot more control over how your table looks, such as determining the row height, the column width, and the overall table size. So if I jump up to the Insert ribbon, go to the Table drop-down, there is an option in there for Draw Table. So let's turn this on, and you'll see that my mouse pointer now turns into a little pencil icon. So this is going to allow me to draw my table. So I'm going to start with the outside border, and I'm going to make it that big. And I can then take my pencil and I can draw in rows and columns. So this is a lot more flexible and gives me a little bit more control than some of the other options. So I'm just going to draw a few in there, and I can draw some columns like so. Now once you're finished drawing your table, you see that I still have that pencil icon. All I need to do is jump up to my ribbon and just deselect the Draw Table option. So once you have your table drawn or inserted, whichever method you've chosen, you'll then have access to the Table Tools contextual ribbon. So I'm going to do this on this top example here in this table. So I'm going to select the entire table. If you glance up to your ribbons, you'll see that now, because I have a table selected, I have access to the Table Design ribbon and the Table Layout ribbon. And between these two ribbons, you can pretty much control every aspect of your table. So let's start with the Table Design. So this is where I can go in to really control the formatting of my table. For example, in the middle here, I have some table styles that I can apply. And you'll see as I hover over, I get that live preview so I can see which one I want to use before I actually apply it. So that's a nice quick way of adding formatting. Now you can apply a table style and then you can modify different elements of the formatting. You're not just stuck with the color scheme that you have. So if I decide that I quite like this table style, but I want to change maybe the background shading of the header row, I can just select that header row, go up to shading, and I can choose a completely different color. Now I'm going to enter some text into here, so I'm going to click in this first cell. I'm going to type in the word north, press the tab key to move across to the next cell, tab again, east, tab again, west. So tabbing will allow you to move between your different cells in order to input any data. It's worth noting that if you are clicked in a cell, so I'm clicked in north, if I was to press enter, it's just going to make that cell taller. It's not going to move me down to the next row. To do that, I would either need to click with my mouse in the cell below, or alternatively, I can use my down arrow to move to that cell. I can also make adjustments to the width of these columns simply by hovering my mouse over the column border and dragging out or in. And I could do the same for the rows. I can drag them up and I can drag them down. So I've gone ahead and I've added some data into the top half of this table. Now a few other things that I can do here with formatting. Again, I have some table style options. So currently you can see that I have banded rows turned on, which is giving me these alternate blue and white colors in this table. If I turn those off, it removes them. I could choose to have banded columns instead. I could choose to format the last column, so you can see now it's made all of those numbers in bold. Or I could even add a total row, a header row, or a first column. I could also add some interest to my table by adding borders. So currently I have very pale borders running through my table, but if I wanted to, I can select my table, and I have this borders group up here. So what I might want to do is give it a reasonably thick border. So I'm going to select a solid line. I'm going to make the border a bit thicker, so 2 1/4 points. And I'm going to make that border a completely different color. So let's do a bright green. And then I can choose what kind of border I want. And again, if I hover over these different options, you can see how they apply. So for example, left border is going to give me that green left border. I can do all borders to put a border around everything. Alternatively, I could just do an outside border or an inside border. So in this case, I'm going to do an outside border. I'm then going to change the width of my pen. So I'm going to take that down to 1.5 points. I'm going to change the pen color to a blue color. And this time I'm going to select inside borders, like so. So lots of different styling options available for you on the table design ribbon. Now the other ribbon that we have here is the layout ribbon. And this is where you can do things like insert rows, insert columns, merge cells, split cells, change the text direction, and also the alignment of your text within your cells. So let's take a look at some of these basic things. If you want to add a new row in, so if I want a new row in between this row that I've got highlighted and the one below, all I need to do is highlight the row. Then on the layout ribbon, you can see in the rows and columns group, I have the option to insert a new row above where I'm clicked or below, like so. And the same thing works for columns. So I could highlight the east column and choose if I want to insert a blank column to the left or to the right. Another quick way of adding a row is if you click just outside the table. So in the west column where we have 49, I'm going to click my cursor just outside of the table. And if I press the Enter key, it's going to give me a brand new row. Similarly, if I want to delete anything, so if I want to delete these 2 blank rows that I've put in, I can highlight them. And in the rows and columns group, I have a delete option and I can say delete rows. I'm going to do the same for these blank rows at the bottom, but this time I'm going to right click my mouse and you'll see that I also have an option in the right click menu for deleting rows. Now, one thing that I am going to do here, I'm going to add another blank row on the bottom. So I'm going to click outside of the last row and I'm going to press Enter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a formula which is going to add up all of the numbers above. So if you jump to the layout ribbon, you'll see in the data group, you actually have the option to add a formula into your Word table. And Word's pretty clever. What it's done here is it's recognized that I have numbers above where I'm clicked and it's entered the formula for me. So it's saying equals sum, and then in brackets, it says above. Now, there are about 18 different functions that you can use in formulas in Word, and you can see all of them listed in this paste function drop-down. So if instead of doing a sum, I wanted to do an average calculation, I could select that from there instead and use above, below, left or right, depending on where my numbers are. Now, in this case, I'm fairly happy just to do the sum of above, click OK, and it puts that sum in. So this time I'm going to do a formula that's going to work out the average of the numbers above. So all I need to do is delete out the sum function, and I'm going to select average. And this time I'm just going to type in above, click on OK, and I'm now getting the average. Another thing I might want to do to make this table look a bit nicer is I might want to align all of my numbers to the center. So again, I'm going to highlight everything in this table. And then in the alignment group, I have lots of options in here when it comes to aligning my items within the cell. And I'm going to select Align Center to put those all in the center. Now, don't forget also that you can delete tables. So for example, this table that I've drawn underneath is no longer needed. And you'll see in the top left-hand corner, I have this little crosshair. If I click on that crosshair, it's going to allow me to very quickly select the entire table. Now, if I want to delete this, I can right click and I have a delete table option in the right click menu. Alternatively, on the layout ribbon, I have a delete table option. Now, another thing that you might find yourself wanting to do is converting tables to regular text. So I might want to remove these numbers and these headings from the table and just have them as regular text on my page. And again, Word has a handy little button that's going to help you to do this. I'm going to select my table. Up on the layout ribbon, in the data group at the end, we have a button that says Convert to Text. Now, when you click that, it's going to ask you, how do you want these fields to be divided up? So when it takes it out of the table, there's no longer going to be columns and rows in order to separate these values. So Word is asking you, how do you want to separate the text? With paragraph marks, with tabs, with commas, or with something else? Now, in this case, I'm going to utilize tabs. Click on OK. And you can see that the data is now out of the table and everything is separated by a tab. And if I wanted to put this back in a table, I can highlight this data. I can go to the Insert ribbon. I can jump down to Tables, and you can see here I have an option, Convert Text to Table. Word's picked up that I have 4 columns and the number of rows is 6. Click on OK, and I'm back in my table structure. Now, the final thing I want to show you with tables is just how to split and merge cells. So, for example, if I decide that I want to split this north cell into 2 cells, I can do that simply by clicking within the cell, jumping up to the layout ribbon, and in the merge group, I have a split cells option. And it's going to ask me, how many columns do I want to split this cell into? Now, I'm just going to split it into 2, but you could definitely do 3 or 4 as long as you have enough space in there. So I'm going to say split into 2 columns, click on OK, and you can now see I've split that cell. The reverse of that is merging columns. So again, if I wanted to merge these back into one cell, I would need to select both of the cells, jump up to Layout, and choose the Merge Cells option to put that back to one cell. So as you can see, there are plenty of options when it comes to formatting your tables, and there's definitely more than what I've shown you here. But hopefully that will get you started, get you interested. So my recommendation is that you insert a table into a document and just have a play around with it and see all of the things that you can do with tables. That's it for this video tutorial. I hope you found it useful, and I will see you in the next one.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new tutorial from Simon Sez IT. In this video, I will show you how to convert a Word table to an image. When you have to showcase a table in other applications, an email, or a presentation, it's not feasible to attach the whole Excel or Word document. In such cases, you can easily convert the table to an image and save it to your local drive. The first method is a simple and effective way to convert a table to an image in Word. Go to the table which you want to convert as an image. Select the entire table by clicking on the 4-sided arrow in the top left corner of the table. Right-click on the table and click on Copy. Now, open a new Word document or place the cursor in another place in the same document where you want to insert the image. Right-click on the destination and select the Paste Special option, Picture You. This will paste the table as an image in the destination. You can see that when you paste the table as an image in Word, you cannot modify or edit it like a table. Now, right-click on the table which is pasted as an image and select Save as Picture. This opens the Save as Picture dialog box. Choose the destination to save the file and rename the image if necessary. From the Save As Type dropdown, choose the format of the image. Select the file format and click Save. This saves the table as an image in the desired location. There's another easy way to convert a Word table to an image. You can use the built-in snipping tool to carve the table out and convert it to an image. To take a screenshot of the table, first navigate to the Word document which houses the table. Open the Snipping Tool application. It can be seen as a small floating window hovering over your main application. Click on New. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut Windows plus Shift plus S to start snipping. Once you click on New, a frozen window appears. Now, draw the required shape by holding the left mouse button. Once you leave the mouse button, the snip opens in an editor window. Here, you can use any marking and highlights and even crop the image as per your requirements. To save the image, click on the Save button. This in turn opens a Save As dialog box. Rename the file, choose the location and the format of the file, and click on Save. This saves the table as an image in the selected destination. Converting a Word table to an image has advantages of its own. In this video, we saw 2 easy ways to save a Word table as an image. Both methods are useful, and you can use them depending on your preference. Thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome back to this course on Word 2019 Advanced. We're down in section 5 where we've been exploring the options that we have when it comes to graphics and pictures in your documents. And in the previous module we took a look at how you can fill shapes with pictures. Now in this module I want to talk to you a little bit about file size when it comes to a document that contains multiple images. One thing you need to be careful of if you do have a document like this that has a lot of graphics in it or photos that you've added is that the file size can get really huge. So if we take a look at this particular document that I have open on the screen, which is our travel newsletter, I've got quite a lot of images in here. Now these ones at the top seem fairly small, so you might think, well, they're not going to take up too much space. This one's a bit larger, but all in all, but on the face of it, these images wouldn't seem to increase the file size by a great deal because they're not absolutely huge. However, let's jump in and take a look at what the file size is currently at. If we jump up to the File tab and go down to Info, in the Properties section, I can see the size of this particular document, and currently it's a whopping 43.6 meg. Now that is a pretty large file. And what you will notice is that if you do have a document which has quite a few pictures in it, you'll start to notice some lag. So when it comes to things like saving, it will take a little bit longer. If you have this document automatically uploading into OneDrive or cloud storage, you might find you get a delay as it does that. So what can we do about this if we want a nice document with lots of really high quality images in it? Well, there is something we can do to help keep that file size down. And that is an option in Word called Compress Images. So what you need to do is you need to click on any image in your document. So let's click on our image of the gorilla. I then get access to my Drawing Tools and Picture Tools tabs at the top. And again, I can utilize either of these. So I'm going to jump into Picture Tools. And in the Adjust group, you'll see you have an option to compress pictures. And as I hover over, it says compress pictures in the document to reduce its size. So if I click this option, I get 2 compression options at the top. I can choose to compress just the picture that I'm clicked on, which is what I currently have selected. Now the second option in here is a really important one, delete cropped areas of picture. If you're trying to reduce the file size of your document, it's a good idea to have this option ticked. Because if you don't, essentially what happens is that when you crop a picture, like we did with this gorilla picture, if you remember we went up to the crop tool, we filled and then we cropped. If you don't have this option selected, even though you can only see the cropped area, it means that the entire high definition picture is still floating around in the background of this document and adding to that file size. So always make sure that when you are cropping pictures that you select delete cropped areas of picture to keep that file size down. You then have some options with regards to the resolution of the pictures in your document. And of course, the higher the resolution, the more space that's going to take up, the bigger the file size. So sometimes it is a bit of a balancing act with regards to the quality of the original picture and trying to keep that file size as low as possible. Now, I always like to select this top option, which preserves the quality of the original picture. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to untick the apply only to this picture option. because I want to compress all of the images in this particular document. I'm going to click on OK. So let's go and take a look at what our file size is now. I'm going to go back up to File, into Info, and look at that, we're down to 15.3 megabytes. So quite a difference there. We've managed to shave off about 25 meg of file size. If I want to compress it even more, if I go back, I may decide that I don't need a super high quality. So I can click on a picture again, go up to Format and into Compress Pictures once more. I'm going to take the tick out of this top box and I'm going to utilize this print option. So it says excellent quality on most printers and screens. So I'm going to say print, which is a slightly lower resolution. Click on OK. I'm going to save my document. And let's take one more look. File, Info. And now we're down to 12 meg. So very quickly, we've managed to shave off a lot of that file size. And if you do that, you'll find that your document works more efficiently and you won't get that lag in as much. So just be aware of that, particularly if you have longer documents which contain lots of images. Make sure that you choose to delete the cropped areas and also compress all of the pictures to a quality that's suitable for you. That's it for this module. I will see you in the next one. Hello everyone, welcome back to this course on Word 2019. This is Deb and we are down in section 12 where we're talking about everything related to bookmarks and cross-references. And in the previous module I showed you how simple it was to add in bookmarks and then hyperlink to those bookmarks. And we're going to continue on with bookmarks in this module. So what you see on the screen is the document that we are working on in the previous module, but I've gone through and I've continued to add those bookmarks and hyperlinks for Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus. Now I still have Neptune to do, so I've already bookmarked it in the document, so I just need to create the link. So I'm going to show you a slightly different way that you can do it. Let's double click on Neptune. We're going to right click our mouse and jump into Link. And if you remember previously, we were going straight into this bookmark area in order to select the bookmark that we want to link to. And that's perfectly fine to do it that way, but also be aware that you can access your bookmarks through this option here on the left-hand side, Place in this document, because this will also show you all of the headings that you have in your document and then all of the bookmarks. So I can select Neptune, click on OK, and I have my link. If I hold down Control and click to make sure that works, and I can see that it does. Now, another way that you can utilize bookmarks within your document is for navigation purposes. So if I'm clicked at the top of my document and I go up to the Home ribbon, and all the way over in the editing group, I'm going to go to the Find button and I'm going to select Go To. And the keyboard shortcut for that is Control G. And what you'll find in here is that we can actually navigate using our bookmarks. So in this Go To area, we can say what we want to go to. So that might be a specific page. We can enter the page number, a specific section, line, but the fourth option down is bookmark. And what you'll see when you select that option is that in this Enter Bookmark Name area, if you click the drop down, it's going to pull up all of the bookmarks that you have in your document. And you can see that I have quite a few. So if I want to jump down to the section on Jupiter, I can select Jupiter, Go To, and it's going to navigate me through the document using that bookmark. So don't forget that with bookmarks, you also have that Go To navigation option. Now, one other thing that's worth noting when you're dealing with bookmarks is that you're not just constrained to bookmarking and linking to text. You can also bookmark images, tables, anything you like. So let's jump down to our section on Mercury. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a quick image underneath this paragraph of text. And I'm just going to utilize online pictures for this. And I'm going to type in Mercury. And all of these images that come up have a Creative Commons only license. So I'm going to select this image just here and click on Insert. Now this is slightly too big for my purposes, so I'm going to decrease this size. So let's make it, let's say 7 centimeters. And there we go, that's a lot better. So now I've got my image in this document, I'm going to bookmark the image this time. So let's jump up to Insert and go across to Bookmark. And I'm going to call this Mercury Image. Now remember, again, if I had a space in between these two words, so let me put one in, what you'll notice is that my Add button grays out, so I can no longer add that bookmark. But as soon as I backspace to make that one word, the Add button is active again. So just to reiterate that point, you can't have any spaces in your bookmark names. I'm going to say Add to make that a bookmark, Control Home to jump to the top, and then maybe I want to put something up here that says See Photo. And I can then make the word photo a link by linking to that bookmark. So this time I'm going to right click and I'm going to say link. I have my bookmarks just here and I'm going to select Mercury Image. And remember, you can also add screen tips. So I might want to say click to see a photo of Mercury. Click on OK, click on OK again. So now when I hover over the link, I get my screen tip text just above. And if I hold down Control and click, it's going to jump me to that image. So the main point here is that don't think of bookmarks as just text. You can link to images and any other things that you have in your document.
Another way that you can link to different parts of a document is to use bookmarks. Bookmarks really are pretty much what you might think they are. If you can imagine a book with a bookmark in it, you're basically holding that page so you can refer to it quickly later on. And that works the same in a Word document. So let's scroll down to where we have some text. Now, maybe if we scroll through these different paragraphs, where we have reading view just here, maybe I want that to be a hyperlink so that when we click on it, it jumps down to the section related to views in this document. Now, we've seen one way that we can do this. We can right click and set up a link and link it to different headings. But with a bookmark, we can basically link to any piece of text. Now, as I said, where we have reading view, I want it to link to the views section of this document. So what I'm going to do is up on the view tab, I'm going to open up the navigation pane and I'm going to scroll down until I find views, which is this section just here. So let's click to jump to that point in the document. So maybe I want it to link to the views section. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a bookmark, and we do this by jumping up to the insert ribbon, and in the links group we have a bookmark option. So let's click on bookmark. We now need to give our bookmark a name. And when you're naming your bookmarks, it's a good idea not to have any spaces if you want the bookmark name to be 2 words. So make sure you don't have a space or you separate words with an underscore. So I'm just going to call this one views and we're going to say add. Now, once I've created that bookmark, I can't tell that I actually have a bookmark at this part of the document. Now, if you want to be able to see where your bookmarks are, you're going to need to turn that on in Word Options. So if we jump up to File and go down to Options, we want to click on the Advanced page. And you're going to find this setting all the way down in the Show Document Content section. Notice we have a little checkbox here to show bookmarks. So let's check that and click on OK. And now if you click away, can you see I kind of have this line just where we have views? That shows me that I have a bookmark just there. So now what we can do is we can effectively add a hyperlink that links to this particular bookmark. And we can add bookmarks throughout our document. So I could come down to keyboard shortcuts and add another bookmark. Let's click on bookmarks. I'm going to call this one keyboard _ shortcuts. Let's add that. And now I can see that I have that bookmark just there as well. Let's jump to the top of the document, Control Home, and now I can link to those bookmarks from anywhere else in this document. So maybe where we have reading view, I want to make this a link. Let's right click and go to Link. And notice when we select Link to a place in this document, we can choose one of the headings, or alternatively, if we scroll down to the bottom, we have a new section called Bookmarks. And we can choose which bookmark we want to link to. So I'm going to link Reading View to the Views section. I could choose to add a screen tip if I want to, and click on OK. And that is now a link. If I hold down Control and click on this, it's going to jump me to that point of the document. So that's how you can use bookmarks and hyperlinks together to link to different parts of a Word document.
Hello everyone and welcome back to this course on Word 2019 Advanced. We're down into section 12, and in this section we're going to talk about bookmarks and cross-referencing. Now, both of these are essentially a way to jump to different areas of your document. And I'm going to start out by running you through a demonstration of how bookmarks work. So on the screen in front of me, I have my solar system document, and I've changed this document very slightly from previous modules. So I now have a list at the top, and this is just a bulleted list of the planets of the solar system. And then I've actually also changed the numbering style that I'm using for my document. So you'll see as we go through, once we get down to some of these subheadings, I now have the style of 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, so on and so forth. So the way that I've done this is just by utilizing outline numbering and using this numbering option just here. Now, what I essentially want to do in this document is I want to create a link for each of these planets that's going to jump me down to the relevant section in the document that has the information about those planets. So it's almost like having a little mini table of contents at the beginning of the document. And it just really assists the person reading the document when it comes to navigating and being able to jump to different sections of interest quickly. Now, we've actually seen how to do something similar to this in previous modules when we were talking about hyperlinks. And I could very easily set this up as a hyperlink, but I want to show you a different way of doing it using bookmarks. So the first thing that I want is I want to be able to click on Mercury and jump down to that section of the document. So the first thing I need to do is scroll down to that section of this document. So we're going to go down and find Mercury. There we are. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a bookmark. So if you jump up to the Insert ribbon, in the Links group, you'll see that we have a bookmark option. And if we just read that screen tip, it says bookmarks work with hyperlinks to let you jump to a specific place in your document. Here's how it works. Select the content you want to jump to, insert a bookmark, and then add a hyperlink that points to your bookmark. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. I'm going to create a bookmark for the word Mercury, and we're then going to link to that bookmark. So I'm going to select my word by double-clicking and up to bookmark. So in this bookmark dialog box, the first thing I need to do is give my bookmark a name. Now you can name your bookmark whatever you like, but you have to have one word. So you can't have a space in there or anything like that. So I'm just going to call mine Mercury, and I'm going to say add. Now you can tell when you've bookmarked some text because you'll see these brackets around the outside of the word Mercury. Now if you don't see them, this is just a setting that you'll find in options. So I'll show you where that is now because it is really useful to be able to see these little bookmarks. Of course, these things don't print if you were to print this document, they're just there for your reference. So if you've added a bookmark and you can't see them, jump up to File, go all the way down to Options, and we want to go into the Advanced area. And we're going to scroll down until we get to this Show Document Content section. And you want to make sure that you have a tick in the box that says Show Bookmarks. Once you've done that, you'll be able to see wherever you've put in those bookmarks. So now I have my bookmark. I'm going to press Control Home to jump to the top of my document, and I'm essentially going to create a link that's going to jump me to that place in the document. And I'm going to link to the bookmark that we've just put in. So this time I'm going to go up to Link, and I'm going to say Insert Link. And again, this box should look familiar because we were using it when we were looking at hyperlinks. But instead of linking to existing files and web pages, I'm going to go straight over to the right-hand side, and you'll see that I have an option to link to a bookmark. And what will happen here is that any bookmarks that you have in your document will be picked up and pulled into this little window, and you can then select the bookmark that you want to link to. Click on OK, Click on OK again, and you'll see that I now have essentially a hyperlink that is linking to a bookmark. And if I want to follow it, I just hold down Control, click, and it's going to jump me down to the correct position in the document. Let's do that one more time. So I'm going to select Venus, up to Bookmark. I'm going to give my bookmark a name of Venus. Click on Add. Control Home to jump to the top of the document. Double click to select the word Venus, and then create a link. And we're going to create it from a bookmark, and the bookmark this time is Venus. And there we go, as simple as that. Now there's lots of different ways that you can use bookmarks, and we're going to be exploring some more of those in this section. But for now, that is it. I will see you in the next module. Hello everyone, and welcome back to this course on Word 2019 Advanced. We're down in section 6 where we're exploring the wonderful world of text boxes. And in the previous modules in this section, I've showed you how to insert different types of text boxes from the text box gallery, format them, and also how to adjust the alignment and the margins. In this module, we're going to explore one other type of text box that we haven't looked at yet, and this is the sidebar. So if we jump straight up to the Insert ribbon and open up our text box gallery, what you'll see is for the most part these text boxes that we have are simple text boxes, quotes, or sidebars. And we have lots of different types of sidebar styles. And of course all of these can be modified to match your existing colour scheme. Now a sidebar differs very slightly from a quote text box. A quote text box is really there to highlight any quotes that you might have in your document, whereas a sidebar is something that you're more likely to add which contains supplementary information. So maybe some additional information that you want to add to the document that stands out from the body of the text. And as you can imagine, it's very simple to enter a sidebar text box and modify it. So let's jump in and let's choose this top sidebar just here, the Austin sidebar. And I can see that this is a right aligned sidebar with accent bars at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to select it to insert that in, and you can see immediately what that's going to look like. And it runs all the way down from the top to the bottom of the page. So this is a great way to add supplementary information. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to replace this test sidebar text with some text that I've got from the Vegan Society website. I'm going to click to select, and I'm going to do a Control V to paste that in. I'm then going to add in a sidebar title, so I'm going to call this Vegan Stats. And I'm going to do some formatting to this text. So I want this text to match the text that I have in the document. And I can see that currently in this sidebar, my font is Calibri and the size is 11. The rest of my document is a different font with a different size. So I'm going to highlight all of my sidebar text, and I'm just going to change that so that it matches. I'm just going to do a little bit of tidying up and remove some of these sources that I don't actually need in my document. And right at the bottom, I'm just going to add source, the Vegan Society. Now I'm going to make this in italics just to differentiate it from the rest of the text. Now I also know that some of these are bullet points, so I'm going to highlight and then just apply some bullets. Now one thing you can do with these text boxes is you can change the size of them. So if I click, you'll see that I get my resize handle. So if I wanted to give this a bit more room, I can drag it out. And I can also drag the bottom up if I wanted to. Now I'm quite happy having it running to the bottom of the page, but just be aware that you can resize as you would a normal text box. Now if you do resize, you may notice that this shape at the top doesn't resize with it, so you may have to do some minor adjustments just here. So I'm just going to drag that out. But I can also change this shape to a different color so that it matches more in with the color scheme of this document. So I've been using a greeny colored color scheme, so I'm going to jump up to Drawing Tools Format, and I'm going to change the shape Fill to Green Accent 6. I'm also going to change this title text color to green as well. And then the rest of this text, let's highlight it and let's just make sure that that is black. And there we go. Very quickly, we've been able to add some additional information that really stands out from the document in a sidebar. And as with the other text boxes, if we want to make any changes to the alignment and the position of the text within the text box, we can right-click, go down to Format Object, and then we have Add Text options, and we can make our modifications. So for example, with this top margin, I'm going to take that down very slightly, and also the bottom margin as well. And right at the bottom, I'm going to just drag this out on both sides and change the color of that to green. And there we go. So let's zoom out a little bit and take a look and see what that looks like. So I think you'll agree, using these different styles of text boxes for quotes and sidebars can really help important information stand out from the rest of the text in your document. That's it for this module. I will see you in the next one. Hello everyone and welcome back to this course on Word 2019 Advanced. This is still Deb and we're in section 21 where we're starting to talk about forms in Word. And in the previous module I showed you a completed form that you can currently see here on the right hand side of the screen. And I gave you a brief explanation as to what we have in this form and the content controls that I've used. What we're going to do in this first module is we're just going to recreate the basic bare bones of this form. And this is also going to help you practice some of the skills that we've learnt earlier on in the course. Now what I've done here is I've kind of got a split screen going on. I have my completed form in the right hand side of the screen and I've just opened a new blank document in the left hand side of the screen and saved it as employee details form.docx. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to recreate what we have in the right hand side of the screen. So starting at the top, we have a header. So I'm going to double click to access my header. Now I'm going to do something very slightly different to what we have in the right hand side of the screen. I'm actually going to use my document info drop down and I'm going to put the file name at the top of this form in the header. And that's all I'm going to have. So I'm going to close my header and footer. Press enter and I'm going to type the title, HR Employee Details Form. And then underneath that, I'm going to put for HR use only. Now I have more space in between these two sentences than I would like. So I'm going to select both of my lines of text and I'm going to jump up into my paragraph settings. And I can see here in the spacing area, I have 8 points after. So I'm going to take that down to 0 and click on OK just to reduce that space. I'm then going to move this into the center of my document. So again, I can use my alignment tools within Paragraph, or I can press my keyboard shortcut Control E. And what I'm going to do now is just apply some formatting. So I'm going to select both of these lines of text and I'm going to change the font style to Sago UI. And then I'm going to make the main title here. I'm going to put that in a blue color. I'm going to make it bold and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, like so. I'm also going to do something similar for this line of text. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So let's increase our font size to 12. And I'm going to make that italics. So Control I. So all fairly straightforward so far. Let's put in a couple of carriage returns. And you can see there by the looks of my cursor, I still have it in italic mode and it's centered. So I'm going to want to turn those off. So I'm going to do Control I to remove italics and I'm going to left align to the margin. We're now going to type in date with a colon. Hit enter twice and employee ID with a colon. And that is all for the time being. Let's press enter a couple more times. Now what I want here is I want to have a first name and a last name field with a line above them so that people can enter in the relevant information. Now, what you may not have noticed is that this is actually in a table in this right-hand document. So if I was to go back to this document and just to make it easier to see, if I go to the design ribbon and just turn on all borders, you can see exactly the layout of this table. So what I have here is a table that is 3 columns by 2 rows. Now the reason I have 3 columns is because I have this little column in the middle so that when I add the lines, I get a space in between them. So let's recreate this table on the left-hand side. I'm going to go up to Insert, down to Table, and we want 3 columns by 2 rows. Now I'm going to adjust this middle column in my table so that it's a lot smaller than the other 2, and that's going to give us that gap in between the first name and the last name. All I need to do then is enter in my text, so first name. I'm going to tab to move across and then enter in last name. Now what I'm going to do here to remove these borders is I'm going to select the entire table up to the design ribbon and into borders. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want no borders. So now to get the line, all I need to do is select this first cell just here where it says first name, go back up to borders, and I'm going to add a top border. I'm going to do the same for last name, so we need to highlight that cell, up to borders, and add in a top border. And you can see very nicely that now gives us that form layout, and we have our gap in the middle. Let's hit enter a couple of times. And we're basically going to do something similar for job title, department, supervisor, and date hired. Again, this is just one table that's had the borders turned off in certain parts of the table. Now for this one, I'm going to need a 2 column by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. So let's insert that. Back up to Insert, down to Table. We're doing 2 columns by 7 rows, like so. Now I'm going to move the boundary across a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit of formatting on this table. So let's select the entire table up to the layout ribbon, and I'm going to adjust the height. So just here where it says table row height, and in fact I'm just going to check what I've set it to in my document on the right hand side. I can see that I've set the row height here to 0.8 centimeters. So let's do the same with this table. I'm going to use my scroll buttons, and I'm going to make that 0.8 centimeters. Now I can see here that I have job title, department, supervisor, and date hired. I can see that those are centered within the cell. So I'm going to hover my mouse over that first column until I get that black arrow and click to select that column, up to the layout ribbon, into alignment, and I'm going to say I want everything aligned to the center, both horizontally and vertically. And for the other column, I just want these to be aligned to the center, but to the left-hand side. So now what I can do here is I can go through and enter in my text. So we're going to say job title. Now I'm going to leave a row in between each of these. Department. Supervisor. And then finally, we have date hired. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially remove the borders from these dividing rows just to make it look a little bit neater. So I'm going to select the first blank row. I'm going to go up to my design ribbon and back into borders. And there's a few things I need to change in here. So what I'm going to say is I want to turn off the inside vertical border. And you see as I hover over that, it removes that vertical boundary line from within that cell. I'm then going to go back up to borders, and I'm going to remove the left border and also the right border. And when I click away, you can see that that pretty much gives me the look that I'm wanting. So I'm going to do exactly the same for these other blank rows. Select the row, up to borders, turn off inside vertical border, left border, and right border. And then the final one, up to borders, inside vertical row, and turn off left border and right border. And now we have pretty much the look that we're after. So now we want to add in this job type. Now this looks like I've just typed it into the document, but again, this is actually a table. And if I turn on my borders again so you can see what that looks like, it is a 2-column, 1-row table. So back to our document, up to Insert, down to Table, and we're going to say 2 columns with 1 row. I'm going to adjust that boundary. And again, I'm going to modify the height of this table. So let's take a look at the height of the table in the right-hand document. Up to Layout, I can see that the height here is 1.2 centimeters. So back to our table, up to Layout, and let's just adjust that to 1.2. I can also see here that with the alignment, I have this in the middle but to the left. Now I actually think in mine, I want this job type centered both horizontally and vertically. So I'm going to select the column, go up to Alignment, and I'm going to say Center horizontally and vertically within the cell. And for the second column, I can see that these ones are aligned to the left. So I want to select this column, go up to Alignment, and Align Center Left. So now I can type in job type. And what I want to do is just remove all of the borders from this table. So back up to Design, into Borders, and for this one, I'm going to say no borders. Now, if at this stage, when you remove the borders and you think, actually, job type looks a little bit strange, being kind of indented from the rest, then of course you can go in and modify this. So once again, I can just select that column. I'm going to go up to Layout, back to Alignment, and maybe I decide that Align Center Left is going to look a little bit better. So let's press Enter again, and this time we have some text. Has this employee completed compliance training? And what I'm going to do is underneath here, I'm going to put in the word yes. I'm going to press my Tab key a couple of times and then put in the word no. And then the final sentence that we have in here has this employee passed probation? And again, I'm going to do the same thing. Yes, tab, tab, no. And I want to make sure I have enough space at the bottom to add in my submit button. So that is pretty much it. We've created the bare bones of a form. And hopefully you've seen how easy that is. Of course, there's numerous different types of forms you can create, and you can create them in whatever way you like. But I wanted to give you an example of how you can very quickly create something, really just using tables, formatting, borders, things like that. In the next module, I'm going to show you how you can go in and start adding content controls to your form. So please join me for that. Hello guys and girls, and welcome to this video tutorial on how to create and print envelopes in Microsoft Word. Now, this feature has been available in Word for about 25 years, but it still seems to be one of those things that does confuse people a little bit. So in this video tutorial, all I really want to do is go through the entire process of creating a single envelope and also show you a couple of different methods for creating multiple envelopes and how you can send those to your printer as well. So we're going to start out with a blank document, and I'm going to jump straight up to the mailings ribbon. Now, mailings is where you'll find all of these kinds of things. So if you need to create envelopes or labels, or perhaps you want to do something like a mail merge, you'll find all of that kind of stuff on this mailings ribbon. Now, we're creating envelopes, so we're going to go straight to the Create group, and we're going to click on Envelopes. Now what will open on the screen is the Envelopes and Labels dialog box, and you'll see two tabs at the top, and it's jumped me straight to the Envelopes tab. Now the first thing I want to focus on here is this return address. So essentially, if you want your return address to appear on the envelope, you can add it into here. And if you look at the little preview of the envelope to the right-hand side, you'll see that the return address is going to show in the top left-hand corner of the envelope, and the delivery address is that one that's going to be in the middle. Now, if you have the same return address for all of your envelopes, then what you can do is instead of typing it into the return address box every single time that you create a new envelope, you can add it into your Word options so it will automatically appear. So it makes your life a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to do first. I'm going to cancel out of here and I'm just going to jump across to File to go into the Backstage area. And we're going to head straight down into Word options. And the section you want to go to is the Advanced section. And if we scroll through, and there's quite a lot in here, so it's under this section just here, the General section. And you can see here it says mailing address, and then we have a blank box. So what you want to do is just pop your return mail address into here. I have mine pasted to the clipboard, so I'll do Control V to paste that in. Click on OK. Then whenever you create an envelope, it's going to automatically populate your return address in there. Now, if you decide that on this particular envelope you don't want to include a return address, you do have a little omit checkbox, which will just take that off of the envelope. And if you look in the preview, you can see that the return address has now disappeared from the top left-hand corner. Now, in this case, I do want to include it, so I'm going to untick that checkbox. So that's kind of everything related to your return address and how you can manage that. The next most obvious thing you need to do is to enter your delivery address. So let me just enter one in. And there we go. So I've just manually typed in that delivery address, but if I had my contacts saved off into my address book, I could utilize the little address book icon just there in order to pick which delivery address I want to use. Now, something that's really important in here is you want to make sure that prior to printing off your envelopes, you jump into this options area. And you'll see that you have two tabs, envelope options and printing options. So with envelope options, you want to make sure that you're selecting the correct envelope size. So when you purchase your packet of envelopes, it will contain the sizing information of your envelopes. So you want to make sure that you do have the correct envelope size selected in this little drop-down box. Also, if you wanted to adjust the way the delivery or return address looked, so you can do things like change the font, make it bold, change the color, then you can do that from within this section as well. And you can also set how far from the left and from the top you want both the delivery and the return address positioned on your envelope. Let's jump across to printing options because this is a really important section. This is basically showing you how to feed or load the envelopes into your specific printer. You can see at the top it's picked up there that I'm attached to a Canon printer. And then underneath I have feed method and it's highlighted one of them in blue. So I can see that for my printer, I need to feed the envelope into it face up with the short edge first. And you get a little pictorial representation there, which sometimes really helps when you're trying to work out which way round you need to put that envelope into your printer. So make sure you have the correct feed method selected, make a note of how to load your envelopes into the printer, click on OK, and then it's time for you to do exactly that. At this stage, I would go and I would load my envelopes into the printer. Once you've done that, you then have two options. I can either choose to send this information directly to the printer, or I can choose to add it to my document. Now, if I'm just doing a one-off envelope, I'm probably going to want to just select print. I don't need to keep this information. I'm just going to send it straight to the printer. However, if I want to maybe reuse this information, or maybe I want to print it at a later time and save it into a document instead, I would choose the Add to Document button. So that's exactly what I'm going to do in this case. So let's click Add to Document. And you'll see there it loads up into my blank document, my envelope, and that is exactly how it's going to look when I print this document out. So if I wanted to reuse this or keep it for another time, all I would need to do would be to go up to File and save this document as normal. Now that's all well and good, but in this example, we've just really looked at how you can print a single envelope. More often than not, you'll probably want to run off maybe a batch of envelopes. And those envelopes won't necessarily all have the same address details on the front of them. The more likely scenario is that you want to run off a load of envelopes with lots of different addresses on the front of them. So how can we create multiple envelopes? Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do this, and which one you choose really depends on how many envelopes you want to print. So for example, if I need to print off a big batch of envelopes, maybe 200-300, maybe I'm running an event and I need to send invites out. If I'm printing off that number of envelopes, my best option is probably going to be to use a mail merge to do that. Now, I'm not going to go into how you can create envelopes using mail merge in this particular video tutorial, but just note that if you do have a lot of envelopes to print out, mail merge is probably going to be the easiest option for you, particularly if you have the contact details stored off in an Outlook address book, or maybe even something like an Excel file. Mail merge is going to make it super simple for you to run off lots of envelopes quickly. But what about a slightly different scenario? I'm printing more than one, but I'm not printing 200, 300. I'm not really printing enough to justify all the extra effort that's required to put together a mail merge. Maybe I have 5 to 10 envelopes I need to run off, and they're all going to different people. How would I do that? Well, it's quite simple. I'm going to make sure that I'm clicked at the top of this envelope so I can see my cursor flashing there before the return address. I'm going to go up to the layout ribbon and I'm going to insert a next page section break. So that essentially pushes the envelope that's done down and gives me another one. I'm going to make sure that I've clicked my mouse in this top envelope. And then I'm going to jump back to mail-ins. I'm going to go to create envelope and I can now enter in my second delivery address, like so. Then all I need to do once I've added this new delivery address is click on the Change Document button and it's going to add it onto that particular envelope. And I would repeat this process for however many envelopes I needed. So again, if you're just doing 5 to 10, something like that, this is going to be a lot quicker for you and a lot easier than doing a mail merge. Let's just do it one more time because there are quite a few parts to that and you have to be quite specific about where you're clicked in order for this to work. So make sure that your cursor is clicked at the top of the current envelope. Go up to Layout, go to Breaks and insert a next page section break. Now you'll see that my cursor is clicked down here on the second envelope, so it's super important that you click in that top envelope before going to Mailings, Envelopes, and entering in your new address. Like so, click on Change Document to add that in, and you can carry on going for as many envelopes as you require. If you want to save them, just jump up to File, go down to Save As, and save your document as normal. And that's it, really straightforward. We've seen there how you can create a single envelope, and we've talked about the two different options that you have when it comes to creating multiple envelopes. That's it for this video, guys. I will see you in the next one. Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial video on creating and printing labels in Microsoft Word. Now this facility has been available in Word for many years, but I always find when it comes to things like creating envelopes, creating labels, there's still some mystery surrounding certain parts of it. So what I really want to do in this tutorial video is just to run through the process of creating a page of labels and explain to you exactly how it works and the different options that you have. So we're starting out here with a completely blank document, which is absolutely fine. And I'm going to jump up to the Mailings ribbon. And if you look in that first group, the Create group, we have two options. We can choose to create envelopes or we can create labels. And this is the option that we want. So let's click on Labels. So the Envelopes and Labels dialog box is going to open and you can see that we've got two tabs at the top, Envelopes and Labels. It's jumped us straight to the correct one. Now there's a few options that we have on here that we need to complete. So the first one, the most obvious one, is we need to add an address onto our label. Now I will say it doesn't necessarily have to be an address. You might be using these labels for something completely different. They might not necessarily be for fixing to packages or envelopes. It could be any kind of information really, but whatever the information is, it needs to go into that address block. Now, if you also want to use a return address, you do have a use return address option up here. Now you can see that when I've clicked that, it's actually populated my return address into this address area. And that's because I have my default return address set up in Word options. So let me very quickly cancel out of here and I'll just show you where that option is. So if we jump up to File to go into the Backstage area and go all the way down to Options. Now you'll find this in the Advanced section. And if we scroll down, we want to go down to this General area. And you can see in mailing address, I've added in my company details in there. So essentially what that means is that every time I want to use a return address, it's going to populate that field with these details. Now you definitely don't have to have something in here, but sometimes that can be a lot easier. It just means that you're not having to type out the address every single time. So let's cancel out of there, jump back into our labels option. Now in this case, I don't want to use my return address as the address. This label is going to somebody else. So I'm going to untick that box and I'm going to type in the address that I want to appear on the label. Now underneath I have some other options. So it says print full page of the same label, or I can choose to print a single label. So which option you select in here really depends on what it is that you want to do. So if you want a whole page of labels with the same address, so maybe you're sending lots of items to the same address, then you would select that first option. If you just want to print a single label, then you can select this option. Now this is a bit misleading because it says single label, but then underneath you have row and columns. So essentially what you can do is you can specify the number of rows and the number of columns, and that really allows you to control how many labels you're printing. So for example, if I wanted 6 labels, I might do 2 rows with 3 columns, something along those lines. Now in this case, I'm just going to do a full page of the same label. Now the really important part here is within this options area. This is where you need to go to select the type of labels that you're using. Now, when you purchase labels, you'll be able to see the information related to the labels on the pack. So if it's a very specific brand, then you can select that brand from the label vendors list, and they have most of the top label brands in here. So things like Avery, they're a fairly popular label brand. So just make sure you go through and first select the correct label vendor. I'm just going to leave this on Microsoft. And then it's going to show you underneath in this product number area, it's going to show you all the different labels that that particular vendor does. So again, it's up to you to go through and select the correct vendor and the correct product number. And you can see over to the right of that, that's giving you all of the information with regards to the specific height and width of those labels. Now, if when you're scrolling through, maybe you can't find your label vendor, or maybe you found your label vendor, but you can't find the specific product number, you can enter in your label details manually by clicking the New Label button. And this allows you to go in, you can give your label a name, and you could set the exact dimensions of the labels that you have. So it might involve getting out a ruler and measuring your labels, or maybe just looking on the packaging, but somewhere you should be able to see what the label height is, label width, how many there are going across the page, number down, all of that kind of stuff. So you can essentially set up your own labels in the new label area. Now for this example, I'm just going to choose Microsoft and I'm going to say 30 per page. And I'm going to click on OK. Now once you've set those settings, you're pretty much ready to start printing your labels if that's what you want to do. So at this stage, I would be going in and loading my labels into my printer. And what I could do is I could just click the print button, and that's going to send this information straight to the printer. Now, in general, what I prefer to do is I prefer to see all of my labels first so I can see what they're going to look like before I send them to the printer. And this option is also good if you would like to save your labels as a document for reuse at another time. So what you can also do is click on the New Document button, and you can now see your labels in your document. And you'll see here we just have a whole page of labels with the same address in them. I'm now free to save this document if I want to, or send it directly to the printer. Now in this example, we've used the same address for each label. Now it might be that you want to have a different address in each label. And in order to do that, you have a couple of different options, and which one you choose will really depend on how many labels that you want to create. So I would say that if you have a large number of labels, maybe 200, 300, 400, something along those lines, you'd probably be better off doing a mail merge. And there is an option in mail merge to create labels specifically. So if you do have a high amount of addresses, then the mail merge option is probably going to be better for you, particularly if you have the addresses stored off in something like an Excel file, or maybe you want to pick them up from Outlook. Mail merge is going to be the quickest and most efficient utility for you to use to produce these labels en masse. However, if you had maybe just 5 to 10 different addresses that you wanted to print labels for, you could go about this a slightly different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new blank document. I'm going to go up to the Mailings tab, and I'm going to click on Labels. Again, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure that I have my correct label vendor and my correct product number selected, which I do. I'm going to click on OK, but I'm not going to add an address this time. Instead, I'm just going to click New Document. And what that's going to give me is essentially a blank template. Then what I can do is I can just go in and I can start typing in the names and addresses of the people that I want to create labels for. If I press the Tab key and Tab key again, it's going to move me onto that next label. So sometimes, again, if you've got 5 to 10 different ones that you want to do, this is going to be the quickest option. If you have a lot of labels to create, then mail merge is going to be the way that you do that. So that's it, fairly straightforward how to create labels in Word. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial video on how to mail merge in Word. Now, mail merge is something that's been a part of Word for many, many years. I can remember using it way back in the late 90s. So it's definitely something that's clearly still useful as it continues to be included in later releases of Word. And in this video, I just want to show you very quickly how you can do a quick mail merge. And if you're not sure what mail merge is, it's basically a way of creating letters, envelopes, labels, or even emails in bulk. So if you have a list of 500 contacts stored off in Excel somewhere, and you want to send a letter out, the same letter, to all of those contacts, mail merge makes it super simple to create 500 letters that are personalized to each person in your contact list. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. Now, what you can see on the screen here is that I've already created a very rough, basic letter. Now, you don't have to start from a letter. You could start from a blank document or any document that you wish. But we're going to mail merge letters in this case. So I've got my letter open. I'm going to jump up to this Mailings ribbon at the top, and you'll see that we have a group called Start Mail Merge. And the first button in this group, I'm going to click it, and you can see there we have a choice. We need to select what we're merging. So I'm doing letters. Now, it looks like nothing has actually happened, which is essentially correct, but we then need to move on to selecting our recipients. So it kind of goes Start Mail Merge, then you select your recipients. Let's click the drop down. Now I have 3 options in here. I could choose to type my list of recipients. So if I didn't have them stored off somewhere else, and I would say this is probably better if the list of recipients isn't particularly long. So maybe if you have 10 to 15 people that you want to send this letter to, you could definitely do it this way. And you would go in and you would start typing in that information manually, so on and so forth. Now, the columns that you see here where it says title, first name, last name, so on and so forth, those are completely customizable. You do have a customized columns option at the bottom. So if you want to add different columns, you have the option of doing that in there. Alternatively, you can delete out any columns that you don't need. So you can type your list of contacts essentially on the fly. Now, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to select recipients and we're going to say use an existing list. Now, I have all of my contact details, so their names and addresses, stored off in an Excel spreadsheet. And that is what we're going to use. You also see that I do have a third option, which is I can choose from my Outlook contacts as well. But we're going to use an existing list. So now I need to browse and find where my list is stored. And I can see it just here, contactlist.xlsx. It's an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to select it. Click on open, and it's asking me now which sheet are my contact names and addresses located on. So by default, when you create a new Excel spreadsheet, it's going to give you 3 sheets. And I know that my contacts are stored on sheet 1. I also know that the first row of my data contains column headings. Now, if I want to very quickly check that spreadsheet, and I can see there, I don't have too many contacts in this example. You may have hundreds, but I've got about 8 or so just there. I can see that, yes, I do have headings, and I can see that those contacts are in fact located on sheet 1. So a quick double check there just to make sure that the options I'm selecting for my mail merge are correct. I'm going to say OK. Now again, it doesn't look like it's done a great deal. Now I do have an option here of editing my recipient list. So if I click Edit Recipient List, it's going to show me all of those contacts in Excel, which have now essentially been attached to Word. And if I didn't want to maybe include all of my contacts, so maybe this letter doesn't need to go out to absolutely everybody, I could come in here and I could untick the people that I don't want to send this letter to. Now I do want to send it to everyone, so I'm going to make sure that they're all selected. You also have some other options down here for refining your recipient list. So if you want to do things like sort them into alphabetical order, if you want to filter out certain contacts, maybe you want to find any duplicate entries, you can definitely do that from down here as well. So if you need to make any edits to your recipient list once you've attached it, jump into Edit Recipients List. I'm going to click OK because I don't need to make any changes. And now what we need to do is we need to insert and merge fields into the letter. And that is where this next group comes in. So this Write and Insert Fields group. We have an address block option, we have a greeting line option, and we have an insert merge field option. So let's start out with this address block field. And you can see here the screen tip says that this will add an address to your letter and that you can specify the formatting and where you place that address block within your letter. So in general, when it comes to letter writing, most of the time you will have the address at the top of the letter. So I'm going to move my mouse to the top of my letter and I'm going to click Address Block. Now it's asking me what format do you want the addresses to appear in. So for all of my contacts, and you can see them in a preview over here, and I can scroll through them. These are all of my contacts from my Excel spreadsheet. I can choose how I want this name to be formatted. So if I just want to show their first name, I could do that. Or I can show their full name, and if they have anything like junior or senior afterwards, I can also include those. So very important that you select the format that you're looking for. And I'm also including to insert the postal address. Again, if you don't want to, you can remove that completely. Now, my contacts don't have a company name, but if they did, I would probably want to ensure that I've got the Insert Company Name option also selected. And then finally at the bottom, very important, format the address according to the destination country region. So I'm located in the United Kingdom, which has a very different address format to somewhere like the United States. So I want to make sure that I'm using the correct format for my country. So I'm going to have a quick scroll through this preview just to make sure my addresses are looking good, which they are. And I'm going to click on OK. And you can see there it's inserted that address block. So I might want to come in and make a few little formatting changes. So I might want to give this less or more space. But I essentially have my address. And I can use these arrows at the top in this preview results group to scroll through the different addresses just to see what those are going to look like when we complete our merge. Now, if I click on this preview results button, you can see it toggles me between the actual result and the field that I've inserted. So when I turn preview results off, it's just showing me that address block field at the top there. But I'm going to say preview results. Now the next thing I might want to add is some kind of greeting line. So I might want to say, Dear Vicky, or to Miss Matthews, something along those lines. So back to our merge fields, and we're going to insert a greeting line. And this is where you get to specify the greeting line format. So you can have dear or you can have to. I'm going to select dear. And then you can select if you wanted to say Mr. Randall, if you want the full name, so on and so forth. And again, you get a preview of what yours is going to look like underneath. So you can see if I change this option, it says Dear Vicky Matthews. I'm going to go with Dear Miss Matthews and click on OK. Now finally, another cool thing that you can do here is that you can insert the individual fields wherever you like in your document. So if we read through this first paragraph of this letter, it says, thank you for your recent inquiry. Now I might want to personalize this letter even more by saying, thank you, Vicky, for your recent inquiry. So all I need to do is go to the point within the letter where I want to add my merge field, and then I jump up to my Write and Insert Fields group. And if I click the drop down underneath Insert Merge Fields, it's going to show me all the merge fields I have access to. And these are essentially all of the column headings from my source document, from my spreadsheet. And now I can choose which one or which ones I want to use. So I could say just first name. So that's going to say, thank you, Vicky. Alternatively, I could say, thank you, add the title, Miss, space, and then add the last name, space. So thank you, Miss Matthews, for your recent inquiry. Now for my letters, that's a bit too formal. I just want the first name in there. So I'm going to utilize that first name field. And again, if I toggle preview results, you'll see what that looks like because we're seeing those merge fields within our letter. And that is pretty much it. We've set up our document as we want it to be. Now all we need to do is finish our merge, which essentially is going to generate this letter personalized to everybody in my contact list. So the final option is finish and merge. Now, if you want to print these letters immediately, you can select that document, or you can choose to send email messages. Now, for what I'm doing, I want to see all of the letters on the screen before I decide if I want to print them or if I want to email them. So I'm going to say edit individual documents. I'm going to say merge all records and click on OK. And now what I get, if I scroll down, here is my first letter, which is personalized to Vicky. And if I scroll down, you'll see that I get the next letter, which is now personalized to Ben. The next one is for Ryan, so on and so forth. So it's created all of my letters en masse for me, saved me so much time by utilizing that mail merge feature in Word. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can mail merge for lots of different things, not just letters. You can mail merge email addresses, envelopes, and labels as well. And we'll be covering some of these in later video tutorials. But for now, that's it. That is how you mail merge in Word. I hope that was useful to you, and I will see you in the next tutorial.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new tutorial from Simon Sez IT. In this video, I will show you how to insert a watermark in Word. Watermark is a piece of text which is superimposed onto a document in a transparent way that does not hinder the readability of the document. In this video, let us see how to insert a watermark in Word and customize them. Let us first insert a default watermark. To insert a watermark, navigate to Design. Under the Page Background section, click on the drop-down from Watermark. The drop-down from the Watermark option houses a couple of watermarks by default under different sections. You can click on the watermark you want depending on your needs, and they will instantly be added to your document. In case you're not satisfied with the available options, you can choose and add a watermark in a custom way. To add a custom watermark, navigate to Design Main Menu. Click on the Custom Watermark option from the Watermark drop-down. This opens up a printed watermark dialog box. In this dialog box, you can either select the option to insert a picture watermark or add a text watermark. If you want to add a picture watermark, click on the Picture Watermark radio button in the printed watermark dialog box. This enables the option to add a picture. To add the image, click on the Select Picture button. This shows you 3 ways you can add pictures. In this case, let us use the Add Image from the local drive. Navigate to the file location, select the image you want to add, and click on Insert. Change the scaling of the image, and check the checkbox for the washout option if you want to lighten the watermark even further. If you want to edit or change the watermark image again, navigate to the Design tab. From the Watermark drop-down, select the Custom Watermark option. You can also add any text watermark to your Word document using the Custom Watermark option. Click on the Text Watermark radio button. This enables the option to enter the text as a watermark and customize them. When you add a text watermark in Word, there are several customization options such as language, text, font, size, color, and layout available in addition to adding the text. You can use a combination of the options to create the perfect watermark for your document. To move a watermark in Word, first enable the Header and Footer Edit mode by double-clicking on the header or footer section of a page. Now, scroll down and click on the watermark. This enables the anchor points around the watermark that helps you to move, resize, and rotate the watermark. Once you have resized and moved the watermark to your desired location, you can close the header and footer section either by clicking on the Close Header and Footer button or by double-clicking anywhere on the page. Finally, if you feel there is no need for a watermark in your document, you can remove the watermark in the same way you enabled them. Navigate to Design. Under the Watermark drop-down, click on the Remove Watermark button. This removes the watermark from your document in an instant. That is all, everyone. In this video, we saw how to insert a watermark into Word, either as a default watermark or as a custom picture or text watermark. You can select the watermark and customize them based on your preference. Thank you.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Sez IT.